Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modulator Bay, episode 13, where we talk about music production and all sorts of different stuff, and just hang out and all that, and then have good conversation. And so once again, we have AudiosErgeon and Haze Anderson are back.
Hey, everybody.
And we haven't done one of these for a little while, and so I figure this is a good thing, a good summer thing, since I've broken off from all my music. Collaborations or anything like that for the summer, mostly, and I think it's nice to have a show and just talk about how everything's been, and everything. So nice to have you guys here.
It's good to be here. Thanks.
Yeah.
So Hayes, you were just talking about moving. Moving is a good cure for gas. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, packing everything up was completely devastating and made me want to just sell it all and maybe think about going completely DAW and VSTs.
Yeah. Well, I've kept all my boxes and in a spot where they won't take up too much space.
I've kept most of my boxes. Yeah, that takes up a lot of room. I've got all of mine inside of these, plastic bins, which is good and bad. You can only fit so many, and you've got to fit them in a certain way. So you can't keep things organized, like things together very well. And man, I've been running through like the whole stack trying to find something, only to realize it was way up here in the first one all along. I just didn't dig deep enough in that one. I should have labeled what was inside of everything. That would have been really smart.
Totally. And then detangling all cables and stuff.
Yeah, I thought about labeling the cables as well as they were coming out, but then I realized, well, I'm going to set things up a little bit differently, and I want to try to optimize. So I'm not going to rely on necessarily using the same cables the second time around. So I just yanked everything and rolled everything up as best as I could. And that whole process took like a good 3 to 4 hours, just getting all the cables out.
Wow, yeah.
Well, that's not bad. Okay. Well, you did a good job then.
I'm working. I mean, that was me working.
Yeah, just nonstop.
Nonstop.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I had the hardest time enough. Just a couple days ago, I actually went and jammed with some old friends.
Nice.
Who were not into anything electronic back then, and we were in a noise band and stuff like that together, and but it was all acoustic and weird stuff. But that actually there was a guy who was doing this using Fruity Loops and doing the looping and stuff like that. But see, I wasn't really aware of what he was doing and wasn't interested at the time, and neither were these other the other guys that I were jamming with the other night. This is just like but the thing is, it's like they are kind of just went the same route as me. I'm sitting here thinking regionally, like it's just us that know about this stuff and that are into this stuff, and regionally there's nobody but me, right? And then I find out my old friends just happen to have like my old friend Dave, who's his birthday the other day, right? He just happened to get a DFAM and a subharmonicon, nice. And and he wants to get into it and stuff like that. And I think I'm like, oh my gosh, my old friend has gone the same route as me, and that's crazy. And the same thing with a couple others there. And it's just like, wow, you guys are all doing the same thing, getting the same thing. The other guy, he got the peak just like at the same time as me, and I got to actually look at some. Test out some other gear that I hadn't tried before, like the Minilog XD and the SL Mark III controller, and see how it feels, how the keybed feels. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was cool. They had a D-Mine 12.
I was interested in the Minilog XD. I have the original one. I like it a lot. And isn't it like a 4 poly synth? The Minilog XD?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the 3 analog voices, or 3 analog oscillators, and the digital oscillator that can be you can put banks of oscillators or whatever you want, type of oscillators, make them, write them yourself or whatever, and put them in there, swap them out.
Nice.
And there's a whole community for that digital oscillator part of it, and then it has all the effects. So
Oh yeah, the built-in
really good effects.
too.
It has the best reverb.
Really?
Oh my gosh, it was the best sound in the room so much of the time.
Cool.
That I was there. We were just jamming and stuff like that. But I was gonna say, like, just getting everything together and trying to put everything in the trunk. I took the 3-tier rack here and the mono station to maybe control it, but there was another mono station there already, and it wasn't going to be used either because we only had so much table space. We doubled up on so many things because people are thinking the same way I am about this gear and like getting the same gear as. I was like, what the heck? Like, it just blew my mind. Like all night long, I'm like, these are like, this is my like, what's happening here? Like, something's happening here, and that's like, I've been kind of cloistered, I guess, in a way, just putting out videos by myself and
Well, I haven't experienced that yet. I did get one of my friends into this a bit, and he's acquired a few things. He has a son who is a musician as well, so he's been teaching him music, and it's not just been, like hardware jamming. It's also been like more guitar-oriented type kind of stuff, some acoustic instruments as well. And they've got a nice little studio kind of jamming set up there in the living room. However, I've had a friend of mine contact me, and he wants to get together with another friend here in town who has been getting into synthesizers lately. So it's going to be interesting to see what this person has acquired, and I have no idea what I'm going to bring along. It's not going to be any of this stuff, that's for sure. And I'm going to have to bring a couple guitar pedals, and I'm like, well, I really want to bring the Alexander Marshmallow, but I'm like, I want to bring up some of the more beat-up pedals, I think, instead. Try to get some of the good-sounding ones that are just, that I don't mind if they get kicked around.
Marshmallow? That sounds
Yeah, have
cool.
you not heard of that one?
No.
Oh, it's like it's this weird kind of pitch-shifting delay pedal that's its own beast, really. I got the pink one.
Oh, pitch shifting delay is awesome.
Yeah. It's normally blue. I wanted the toasted marshmallow one, the campfire edition, which is like smoky, gray, and then all the marshmallows are like toasted. They're still happy though; they got smiley faces. So yeah, it's a cool pedal. Alexander makes some really cool digital pedals. Like they're like way on the digital end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Which means they kind of sound pretty good with synthesizers.
Sure. My only fear would be is moving any of this gear. Like, I mean, like you said, you don't want to bring like the nice, shiny, like new stuff. Try to bring the stuff that's like, got some use on it already. Because if I got a ding on my Sub 37, I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, I contemplated bringing the Peak, but I was just like, no. My body said no. Like, no. Don't bring it anywhere. But I do want to bring it out to a peak sometime. I asked some people in the Discord that I hang out in sometimes. It's like what hasn't been done with the peak, like on videos and stuff. It's like, we'll take the peak up to a peak. I was like, oh, I can do that.
I just, not to interrupt, I just made my decision. I think I'm going to bring the Korg EA1 and the ER1 because I can just take them right out. They're kind of old and beat up anyways. And I can actually perform on them right there. That's the other thing is, a lot of these synthesizers, how do you actually get something going on them? I mean, I must confess, I'm still not that good behind a TB303 clone to just plug in a pattern and get it going just, based on what I'm hearing and what other people are playing and get the right notes and, no.
So you have some experience on those old ones then?
Well, the EA1, just for me is one of the easiest synthesizers to perform on. Like I can just play it, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think it has something to do with the fact that all the white keys and black keys are laid out in one row. Kind of like the Volcas, like the Volca bass, for example. Same thing. I don't know. Like I don't have to think too much about what it. I can just look at the distance and play a lot easier that way.
Yeah, no, that's cool that you say that because that's one person who, strangely enough, finds that to be better. Like they make it for reasons, but you'd wonder like. I mean, obviously, somebody who's used to the piano and as a piano player wouldn't like it, but
No, probably not.
But
it feels
the thing
like
is
one
that,
string on a guitar.
well, I certainly like the circuit sort of thing where I don't like it when it's chromatic because it's the two rows in rows, so I never know where the black key is supposed to be in between those or in between the others, until you get used to it. But it's not the same. But what I do like is just to be in scale and to change the scale and to be in that scale and change the scale and be in that scale and do them all in rows. And especially like the Launchpad to have so many octaves. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
The Launchpad couldn't do that, but I mean, potentially for a grid controller to do that. And the new Launchpads, I believe, have that as an option for a keyboard and don't just do the isometric layout, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Not sure,
researching.
but those are all very interesting points because I think when people are looking for different interfaces that match their playing style and abilities, these really come into play, and it's important to try different kinds. Like to realize that if you've never, like okay, so the Volca bass is maybe a bad example because it's really small and it's just like an octave and a half or something, maybe 2 octaves. Well, same thing with the EA1, I guess. So there's really not going to be any synthesizers out there that are laid out like that aren't a strip type kind of thing that are going to be many, many octaves. But then again, one of the coolest tricks that I found with the Volca bass is that you can kind of play around just like with a few notes and then take the octave knob and shift that around instead. And that gets some pretty wild, easy soloing capabilities right there.
Yeah.
I've not used that one too much. I've tried to hold off on using that bag too much. And it's a shame that the Volca bass doesn't have MIDI out, because that is something that would be a great candidate for MIDI out, because you could have that control another synthesizer or just record that as a sequence.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of the limitations. I mean, I believe you can mod the Volcas and get MIDI out on those things. Which
that's
is
like
just,
all the Volcas?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course the Volca modular has no MIDI at all.
So you can sync, but what about program changing between Volcas? Like starting them at the same... I mean, you have to start them all at the same time and have them be playing and muted to have them all be in sync, right?
There's interesting ways of... I haven't done this in a long time. It's been a while since I've tried to interface the Volcas in all the different ways that you can. So you can have them going via CV sync clock or by MIDI. Yeah. And if I recall correctly, I'm not sure. I may be confusing them with the pocket operators. The pocket operators, definitely you can hit play on them and they don't start playing until the master kicks it off. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can have a lot of them just waiting and then boom, you kick them all off.
Right.
I don't think the Volcas can do that, but you might be able to do that. They might actually pause until, the one in the chain above it is actually sending it clock signal. Yeah,
that's what the Moogs do. The DFAM and the Mother 32 and the subharmonicon. If you're clocking them from something, you have to have the one before it playing. You have to have I realized when we were jamming, I put together 2 subharmonicons and 2 DFAMs all together. We clocked them in a daisy chain, and all of them before have to be playing for you to be able to play your one. Otherwise, it's just going to be its own tempo. If you're not getting the clock going all the way through all of them, press play on all of them.
No,
and they'll all wait until.
Uh-huh.
We should mention the DFAM has 2 inputs. One is for the actual tempo, which is different than the advanced clock input.
Right.
And Mr. Basic is talking about the advanced clock input. Mm-hmm. The tempo is cool because you would think that maybe you could have like a clock coming out of another device and put that into the tempo of the DFAM, and that would act as its clock. But what that does is it adds the clock to the existing tempo of the DFAM, which is very interesting.
It's like acceleration, it's not another trigger, unfortunately.
It's not particularly useful in many situations, but it's a nice trick.
It's done some pretty weird things. I've messed with it.
Yeah, I have to work on my Moog skills. soon, because it's been a while since I messed around with a Mother 32, and so like I'm kind of like, how do you say, a little lost with it right now. I've been mostly doing a lot of stuff on the computer, and just kind of like learning on like progressions, melody, actually writing things like in a playlist right now. So I haven't been doing too many like live jams or anything like that lately. Mostly a lot of podcasting though. I've been doing that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've been shifting gears a lot. I'm trying not to be too insecure about everything, about how up in the air I am about what I'm doing right now. But I'm pulled in a lot of directions.
Yeah, it seems like during the summer I'm mostly music centered, but like I don't know, this year I haven't been too busy doing too much music. Like usually in January, I know when they do the January thing, everybody's trying to promote, doing music and stuff, but that's actually usually my like off time where I'm not really as creative. What about you? Have you been as creative lately, or just kind of like the same?
Not me, not at all, really. Yeah. I tend to take, like, naturally I want to do things in the summer, and I think I will, but I go the opposite way and take a break, more of a break from everything, and just veg and play Minecraft with my daughter, and and yeah, all sorts of things. But I don't know. I think also for me, maybe the 101, the MC 101, I had a lot of ideas, like dreams for like this is what it's gonna do for me, and I'm gonna be doing all this stuff like that. And actually, for it, I don't feel it as my main sequencer, so that kind of halted me in my tracks, like not ever wanting to go to it for a sequencer, even though it's just fine. It does everything great. It's full featured. It's everything I'd want, but not in the way that I want, because it's like it's a step down from how the circuit felt, in a way, in terms of how easy. So this is why I don't. Along those lines, I'm not using the Launchpad. I just set it up here today just to give an example, like, because I want to upgrade the Launchpad and get the Pro Mark III. It has 4 tracks of sequencing, and the way I know from the circuit, and the way how you can have all 4 tracks on one page and be choosing, and I just want a bigger page. I wanted to be able to, and ended up wanting to be able to use my Launchpad for the MC 101 and do all the CCs and stuff like some people have, just to see it all, like you can in Ableton, right? Because you could with the 101, but it's just so complicated, and it's like, why not just use the Launchpad if it's got, the new one's got a sequencer on it just like that? And that's what I like and what I'm used to. And Peak has Poly Aftertouch. Not many things have Poly Aftertouch. This has the new Pro Mark III has Poly Aftertouch. So I might just upgrade my Launchpad and say it's all right for the 101 to be a sound module for all that stuff, and have that be its value, even though it's a great sequencer, and I don't want to discourage anyone.
So
right?
That Poly Aftertouch just works directly with MIDI, or is there any setting up with it?
It works directly with MIDI, yeah.
Okay.
Old MIDI.
I hate to
MPE.
go into it, and if it's just too much, then don't worry about it. Like if it's too esoteric and too hard to describe, but I'm very curious as to why the MC101 just isn't going to make it as your main sequencer. If there's any kind of main reason.
Yeah, I've been racking my brain all this time. I've been feeling like it's my fault completely.
Maybe not. I would like to state, while maybe you're thinking about it, that when it comes to sequencing, Roland has always been notorious for just being convoluted. I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
It's all the really basic things I want to do. It just took too many minutes for each of those things.
So when you say minutes, are you talking about like actual
like a couple minutes to do each little thing, that would have just been a couple seconds on the circuit.
Oh, so for you to figure out kind of, or how to actually.
And it's just getting into it, and maybe I'm not spending enough time to figure it out. But it's like that's my motivation. My lack of motivation is keeping me from from spending more time with it so far.
Well, I would say,
As a
at the expense, of course, that you're buying a somewhat expensive piece of equipment, of course, and it's just that, like, well, no, if the workflow ain't working out for you, then don't fight it. I mean, yeah, maybe.
And it's just the session and clip structure.
Finding.
Yeah,
but at the same time, this is all about being creatively free, and only, I mean, we want to restrict ourselves when we're challenging ourselves, we don't want to be frustrated in doing this. And if it causes you frustration, then I would say just forget it.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to say,
honestly, because Roland is really, their sequencing is always notoriously hard to do. Sometimes there's great reward for learning it, and it's like they're always doing something different. They don't stay consistent from one device to the next, is what I've noticed about their sequencing. Probably like the best sequencing device they have out there is the SH-101, because it's just, you just punch in notes and that's it. Super primitive and super simple. But like even the TR-808 and the TR-909, like they're just, you look at it, it's like, whoa, I've got to do this to change instruments. I've got to like press all these buttons to do this, and I've got to change to this to do this, and you got to like memorize all of this stuff just for a drum machine. And totally. I'm telling you, man, like, people, I don't know why people hate Cyclone Analogic so much, or why nobody out there really buys Cyclone Analogic gear. I don't see a lot of their drum machines out there. And to this day, their drum machines are the easiest drum machines I've ever sequenced in my life. They're just no-brainers. Everything about them is intuitive, and there's no LED screens at all. Nothing, no displays whatsoever. It's just all there in the buttons, and they're color-coded, and you have knobs. They're all analog. They're analog circuit paths, but they're digitally driven, of course. And you can tap and play. You can do the step programming. Korg also gets it right, I think. Korg sequencing has always been just intuitive to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that drum log is probably going to be a couple of years down the road, or not going to happen.
The Squirt Pyramid is so unintuitive, but it's worth it so far. I mean, you just have to learn, But the difference between like the Squirt Pyramid and the MC101 is just, there's no comparing the two, I don't think. First of all, the MC101, you're also getting all those classic Roland sounds.
That's the thing, is I can't,
no sounds at all.
I can't recommend it anything more. Like the 101 has it all. It has all the sounds you need. It has really good sounds, like times, as much as you want of really good sounds of any type. It's got it, and it's got a good sound coming out of it, and it's got all the functionality you want. And then
how many multi-timbral parts does it have coming out of it? Do you know? Is it 4?
4. Yeah, 4.
4. Okay.
And any of those tracks can be a drum track. All 4 of them could be a drum track, and then they'd be 16 sounds each. But it's a little bit more limited control in terms of the CCs that you could control from something else. Per drum track, you can't do that as much. But you can actually, somewhat. But just for like 3 parameters per drum track, and that's actually pretty much all you need. But you have to set it up with a MIDI controller or something like that. If you don't, it's not fun. It's really, really not fun compared to if you know something like a drum machine that's been fun, or like a circuit that's been fun, or a groove box that's been fun. Like this could be fun if I'd learn it, but I haven't got there yet.
This all reminds me of the pocket operators. Like they're the mini version of all of this. They're like the simplest version of a complicated workflow, I think, that you can find, because they do have, where like you press this button and it changes the behavior of these buttons. Now you press this button, it changes the behavior of these buttons. There's all these secret little kind of little things inside of it. It's pretty cool though, because when you go from one, it translates from one pocket operator to the next for the most part. There's very little changes really in the workflow from one to the next. The newer ones, of course, they add improvements. So some of the improvements, and there's some things are different, like how you record effects in. Like on the older ones, when you record an effect, you would just play the effect and it would always be recorded. So if you wanted to get rid of it, you would have to like record it off, which could be problematic. They changed that. And the newer ones where you have to hold the record button. Now when you do an effect, it actually records it as like a parameter lock. But yeah, I think everybody should have at least one pocket operator. Honestly, there's a few things I think that like you should just have this. You know, like everybody should have at least one passive direct box in their studio. For example,
pretty neat. Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and that's a different subject, but yeah, sure.
But yeah, just to say like all these different things that you think, oh no, I probably won't ever need that, but you know, you can get a passive direct box for like $25, $30.
I don't know. I think there is a pocket operator for everybody out there.
Sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely, and that's the KO33, the knockout. That is hands down the best pocket operator out there.
I totally didn't get the speak, but I totally would love.
Oh, I love the speak too. The speak is great, but it's not really a sampler.
I want a vocoder, like I want a real vocoder too.
Yeah.
Oh, I got those. We got right here, right behind me. You got the VC340.
Did I've bugged people with this a lot, like recently, but I don't know if I've bugged you or. I definitely haven't bugged all two of you. But okay, for vocoders, well, not just vocoders, but like they're like got all these other similarities too, right? The Roland JDXI, the Korg Microkorg, and the Novation Mini Nova. Right? They all have their
now the Arturia Microfreak
vocoders.
Arturia Microfreak.
And the Microfreak. Yeah, but the Microfreak I respect in a totally different way.
I mean, you can get a little gooseneck microphone for it, though.
But
it goes into like the MIDI jack or something? What? No, where does it go? No, like there's like an audio in or something. I can't remember. Anyways,
and the
I got one right here. I need to just go look at it, but I'm not going to do that. Anyways, it doesn't matter. You're saying, though,
you're all messing me up by putting the Microfreak in the mix.
Well, you said that like the Microkorg, the JDXI.
It does have that same structure.
Yes.
With the knobs and the choosing the row. You're right. It's the key. The keyboard and the sounds make me think it's just something totally on a different plane. And it is. It's something on a different plane. I have all those sounds and I think they're great. And sure, more of that would be great. But for me, I was looking at the Mini Nova versus the Microkorg sounds, and everything. And the JDXI. The JDXI has all those acoustic and natural, organic, whatever sample sounds in their supernatural engine, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that the Microkorg and the Mini Nova don't have, is just all these other sounds that aren't synthy or aren't made by synthesizers, right?
So are these just built-in features on those synths, like the Microfreak? It's actually got a built-in vocoder?
Yeah.
Or do you just run your mic into it?
It was a firmware update.
Yes, it was a firmware update. And one of the ports on the back, I can't remember what's on the back of the Microfreak, but you can kind of overload it and use it as a microphone.
That's crazy.
So does the vocoder, is it good? Like, is it like can it be a good like classic sounding vocoder?
I haven't tried it yet. I haven't.
You can do chords because you can do 4 notes, right?
That's interesting. I guess you could on some of them, yeah.
Or is it a monophonic vocoder? Yeah. I'll look that up. Yeah, thanks for. Well, no, I'm not gonna get a Microfreak.
No, you don't need a Microfreak, I don't think.
Because I go to the trade show, and I try one, and I'm like, no, I can't. No, no. I don't like it, but a lot of people do, so it's cool.
Oh, okay. You don't like it. I was
keyboard.
Confused on your sincerity.
I don't know the key. Just the key bed on the Microfreak.
I love it. Okay, so check this out. The Microfreak does a very interesting thing. It has a built-in sequencer and it's so bizarre. It's like it's not like other sequencers. Like You transpose the sequence when you go from key to key. It's really cool. I think it also does the transposition mid sequence as well. Don't hold me to that one. But what's very interesting about it is that whatever the sequence is, it spits out like MIDI CC start and stop events. It just starts like spitting out all kinds of crazy garbage on the MIDI output. So I was thinking to myself, how cool! Now I've got this MicroFreak, and I could take the MIDI out over to one of my ports where I have all of the analog synthesizers, like the Wasp. So it's really cool to control the Wasp with the capacitive touch key bed, right? Because that's the way the original Jasper Wasp is supposed to be. And that's one of the reasons why I got the MicroFreak was for that capacitive touch key bed. Well, unfortunately, what I discovered is that, I've got a whole bunch of other synthesizers on that whole MIDI port, that MIDI line, that have sequencers on them, all the Roland Boutiques. And when I would press a key on the MicroFreak, it would start the sequences. And I let go and they would stop. And it was very, very, very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. Did you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Complete chaos. Absolute complete chaos.
That's an interesting little
I'm sure there's a way to get into the system information, the menu, the system menu in the MicroFreak, and control what it's sending out, turn all that stuff off. You can always filter it out with another expensive piece of gear. But yeah, that was that. I mean, the first time I did that, I felt like I was being shocked, I guess.
Yeah. Well, okay. I should say, Inky the Cat's here. Inverted Popes is here. John Richardson. Simon the Magpie. Nice to see y'all.
Hey.
Well, hello, everybody.
Yeah.
They've all had some good stuff to add. John Richardson is asking me, Fader Fox? Yeah, I would, if I wouldn't have spent my money on other things. No, but I actually really like and then I settled in on just kind of feeling like I like the Launch Control XL. The only thing that would get me into Fader Fox, even though they're way better, is just not liking the style enough. Yeah.
Or like another one of their
things.
Devices. This
like
is
the bigger
EC4.
ones too, yeah. I would get both of the bigger ones, the PC12 and the MX12.
Gotcha. This is just MIDI CC.
The other cool thing about the PC12 and the MX12 is that they're the same size as the Octatrack and the A4 electrons. So you can all have them as a cool thing.
Oh, that would be cool.
That are all the same size uniform. Some people have done that. Only a couple people that I've known.
This thing I've yet to really, really program. I wish that it had some kind of application that you could program it with on your computer. Because I don't want to manually have to do all of my synthesizers. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah,
somebody's had to have done something. It's just tedious.
I feel like I'm a little bit lazy, and that's my 101 problem right now too. But I've had it since December, and I'm like, wow, I've had it since December. Wow, look at me. God.
It's hard to integrate new gear into your workflow, especially devices like that. It just,
But, okay, so creatively, maybe I haven't been doing so well, but I haven't been feeling so bad about it because I've been having fun because, I've been surfing presets on the Peak. I've been really enjoying a lot of what I've got. Just enjoying it.
Hey, you got that great subharmonicon track, so don't worry about... you got some serious quality over quantity this year already.
That subharmonicon into a good reverb. When I went out to that jam with real people a couple days ago, I put some things off my main rack into this utility rack that I have down here. It's good to have a row on here for other things. So I have this little mixer to mix all the Moogs together that were there. And the Z-Verb, I put a reverb in there because the subharmonicon plus a reverb is just the most amazing thing in the world. Plus a good reverb, I guess, because it's actually kind of rough in its enveloping and filtering in a way, and then reverb just makes it the most perfect thing ever.
No, I totally agree. I think any synth dry needs more. I think that's why a lot of people get disappointed when they first get a synthesizer, and it does not have onboard effects.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, the first time I was getting into the Mother 32s, and I'm like, it just doesn't sound like I thought it would. You know, once you figure out that there's a lot more stuff you need to kind of like complete the entire connections between reverb, delay, and all that, it just makes it so much better. And integration too is also key as well, especially if you have like a, you know, digital and analog gear combined into one thing, plus, you know, incorporating it into your DAW and all that. There's just so many things that can then go wrong, and then you kind of like try to figure out what's the next piece I got to put together to make all this work. And that's like, I guess it's kind of like the joy of doing this kind of stuff, is trying to figure out what's going to be the next thing. But, you know, sometimes that can lead down some weird roads, but
that happened to me today. You know, I had that video I just put up explaining my MIDI setup. And last night I looked at, you know, I have these 4 MIDI hubs, one that's feeding 2 others. And I decided, okay, I can actually take one of those out and just simplify things. And it will take up more ports over here on the one that I don't want to take up ports on, but that's okay. I'm not going to use them for anything else. And in the process of doing that, yeah, it worked, but I discovered that, you know, my custom MIDI ports that I built, I built them to handle 16, like 1 MIDI in, 16 out. But the most I found I could do was 8, so I could only hook up 2 boxes together. They're 4 boxes. So, but now I found out that for whatever reason right now, I can only get 7 out of the 8 going. So what happened to me is that I was testing a few things, and all of a sudden, you know, okay, this one works MIDI-wise. Next one, okay, not hearing anything. Is it the audio? Is it the cables? Is it, you know, what's going on? It took me a little while to kind of figure out, it's just not working. So I just changed a few things. I was still able to get that one box out. So this is good news for me. Like, I can take this, and if you look over here, right here behind me, I can use that MIDI hub over here and get some synthesizers going behind the main rig, and just, you know, figure out how to get cables going so I don't trip over them on the carpet.
MIDI was always the problem I had to deal with. So like simplifying the entire situation from the beginning is always going to probably be the best, you know, thing to do. Like, I remember having to disable, like, even when I was working in like FL Studios, or actually my machine for that matter, I actually had that set up to have MIDI coming out from my computer into a box that went to all my gear, and there was so many problems with like time stamping or something, and it would freeze on notes, and then I had to like troubleshoot the whole thing. Sometimes my audio wouldn't be working, and then I thought that was the problem at first, but then it was the MIDI box, and then I don't know, the whole thing was a big mess. But yeah, it took a long time just to figure it out. And I think MIDI, like I said, is like the one thing I had the most issues with when I was trying to set everything up. Now it's easier. I can kind of figure it out, and, you know, with experience of doing it, it's almost like I can troubleshoot right away and figure what's wrong. But yeah,
that's cool.
Well, I'm pushing the limits with MIDI with my setup over here. But for the most part, there's nothing terribly complicated going on, and definitely no interfacing with the computer, which makes things just a whole lot harder. I mean, it doubles, triples the complexity when you throw a computer into the mix, because like you said before, you've got to deal with timing issues. The computer itself has to be powerful enough just to be able to keep up and handle all that processing, and still be able to spit a signal out and read signals coming in and do something with them. Yeah, that's a game I don't really want to play right now, to tell you the truth. What I use is a Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett, for my audio interface, but it also has MIDI in and out, and that is actually very robust. And I think, I don't know, like I would probably say, you know, if you're having troubles before, it probably was your hardware.
Yeah, actually, I have this iConnect MIDI Plus 4. And once I bought that was actually one of the first things I bought, actually. Once I had like all my analog gear, and I bought this iConnect MIDI plus 4. It's also got like lightning connectivity or something. I don't know. You can actually send it over to like a network, and then you can actually you can trigger MIDI. If you could set it up, I guess you can trigger MIDI from anywhere. But it's just funny. But yeah, I think that thing might have been most of the problems. But for the most that I know, Windows has like a timestamp signature, and there's, I think Machine or the guys from Native told me that you have to disable something, and this is something PPG they can't code. Yeah, and they actually sent me a file. You have to actually add it to your registry, and that'll fix most of the issues for Machine. But when I'm using FL Studios, I literally have like no problems at all, as long as I'm using something, I guess in a DAW, it doesn't have a problem. But Machine is kind of like its own DAW in a way, I think. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, sure,
Anybody use Machine at all? Have you tried it?
Oh, no, I don't.
No, they have a hardware version of it now. I don't know. It's probably pretty good too, but
yeah,
they're kind of pricey though.
Yeah, and I since it goes along with all the contact stuff, if you're into that, then that would be the perfect thing. But I like the idea of MPCs and the MPC software a little better, because it has a long history of being able to be standalone and all that. Not like it hasn't had its own problems throughout the years.
The MPC Live?
Yeah, or the MPC, all the MPC generations. Kind of, but then they went out of standalone and then went back into standalone. So yeah, the MPC Live and then the MPC One would be the entry level, or the cheaper one is the MPC One now that goes standalone like that. But I think it's just great because it does everything, and then it has your velocity sensitive pads for drums and everything you'd want in putting in rhythms and drums, and it's kind of like a DAW, but it's just nice and compact, and that's all you do.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Yeah, I like that.
I like the idea of it.
Do you guys like an interface on your hardware? Like, for instance, so you can menu dive and stuff like that, or do you think it's kind of like a distraction to like your workflow?
Oh, it's definitely a distraction until you learn it.
Yeah.
But once you learn it, then it's a matter of like how often do you use it and how long are you going to retain it. I tend to avoid menu diving if I can. I have a few devices that do that. The Roland Boutiques have weird menus. The D05 is an actual D50, so it's the actual menuing system from the D50. And that is a true parametric menuing system, from back in the day where it's like a small LCD or LED screen. And then up from there, it just kind of goes to some only have like a real simple LED display, like 2-digit on the SH. Actually, the SH01A I think has 4-digit display. And then from there, the Korg Electribes, the old ones, have very, very cool menuing. I mean, it's like a grid, and you have a couple buttons, and you just select which row and which column you want, and you just pick whatever you want. It gets a little cryptic sometimes because when you're dealing with a small display, how they word certain things gets a little weird. The pyramid, of course, is the worst one. Nothing compares to that. I mean, that's like, I hear the Electron workflow is fairly daunting and notorious. I would say maybe it's as bad as that. I have no idea. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's nowhere near as bad. When I say bad, I mean just hard to learn.
Yeah.
The peak is totally non-intimidating.
What is not?
By the way, the peak menus, screen and menus is totally non-intimidating. It's
awesome.
It's just all these 8 buttons at the top of your page that you're on, settings or oscillator or whatever. And then there's these 3 buttons on the side that are your different rows of, it'll say 3 things. It has room to say 3 things on the screen. And whatever button you press, that's what you're affecting with a knob. So it's a little bit of a grid system, and it's just not deep.
Awesome.
There's just a few pages.
I like things. I'm trying to think. For example, there was one that I saw recently. Like anything where you have a little display. Oh yeah, the MicroFreak. The MicroFreak does a very good job when you turn a knob or do something. The screen changes for that feature.
Yeah, it has
to show you the amount that you're changing.
I like that.
And that's super handy. So I love things like that in interface. But there's one thing, and it will go back to the Korg Elect tribes once again. They have the coolest feature on an interface that I've ever seen, and I wish that every synthesizer had this. And it's called Original Value. And it's just an LED. Can you guess what it is?
Init patch?
No.
The values are... No, those are encoders.
So for whatever the preset is, right, whenever you tweak a knob, it'll show you when you hit the original value of that preset, which means you can tweak away and go way out into space and then find where the original value was again. It also means that whatever preset you load up, you could figure out where the knobs and sliders are supposed to be. That's a great feature.
Yeah.
That's a killer feature, and I wish that that was used more often.
You can't even, as great as the mono station is for having all the LEDs do what they're doing for each patch differently for all the parameters, it still doesn't do that, whereas you can go back to the patch.
Most synths leave you in the dark. You kind of have to just
go to another patch and then go back to it.
I'll sit there and tweak it until I find the close to the sound, but those tiny faders, those faders on the boutiques are too small. I will agree with that. So when you're trying to find the right value, it gets pretty tight.
Yeah.
I didn't like the SH101A, the way it felt.
The O1A? Yeah.
The O1A.
It's a great synthesizer, though. It's what I love about the O1A is that it has presets. And what I love about that it has presets is that it shows you what you don't know that synthesizer can do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love the sound that was coming out of it.
Wow,
pretty cool.
You can do all of that with just that small interface. It seems so limited, but yeah, it makes me realize, that could be a desert island synth right there, because you could spend a whole lifetime just really learning synthesis on that one synthesizer, and that's just one oscillator.
That brings me to a thing, actually. The jam that I was at, there was a blind woman there.
That's 3 oscillators. Sorry, 4.
Oh, right.
Not bad. Anyways, you can mix your waveforms. And you get a sub oscillator in there too. But whatever. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Along those lines, there was a blind woman at the jam that I was at, and she asked me. She actually did pretty well with the DeepMind 12. It has all the knob or slider per function sort of thing going on, and so you can really work with it that way. But also, it was pretty easy for her to switch presets on it as well with the knob, right? And so that's a pretty good thing in a way. But she also ran into problems quite a bit with just various things, and it goes way deeper. So, and she asked me at some time in the night of what types of things would be best to learn on, and how do I learn about this stuff? And I immediately thought modular and just the knob per function of all the modules, and how it's just always going to be the knob is going to always do one thing. It's going to do the same thing. And it's all tactile, as long as you don't have too many buttons that switch between with lights necessarily, like you do with this. You have a button, you switch it, and it says low, high, or sync. It's well, she's not going to see that, right? So actually, what I've been racking my brain, and what I was thinking is, and people even said the Mini Brute too, but I have the original Mini Brute, and so that would be and like you said, it has each of the oscillators each of the waves, you can add as much of each one as you want, and that's a little bit different than most of them. But I think she could handle that. It's the waveforms. I'd say there's a row of 6, for the sound generation, right? And then the last one is the audio in, and you can kind of feel where those are. And then the 2 envelopes would be pretty easy to feel, and then you can figure out the rest. So I think I wanted to let her borrow this.
I think that'd be awesome. That looks like a really nice synthesizer
But I don't know. What do you
to see and to be able to play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think about like different things?
Erica Synths had a workshop for the blind where they were teaching people how to use their Pico System 3, the desktop.
Uh-huh.
And, I was thinking about that myself. Like every time I've got one, a Pico System 3. Now, every time I use it, that's the first thing I think about is like not being able to see anything and how would I know how to use it.
Right.
And that one, it's very interesting because, I guess you just have to say like, okay, like count this many over, this many down, and like what to patch into what to do what. I still think though that the microbrute would be a lot easier to teach a blind person how to operate than the Pico System 3, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it really would be great in that sense for learning subtractive and just the basic waves and what happens there. And you got to learn subtractive first. I mean, you don't have to, but it's just so much easier to think about everything once you have the subtractive in your head. Good,
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's better. I think it's more worthwhile, more valuable in the long run.
So many things use it and use the lingo.
Well, like we learned Romplers first, right? Like, the first synthesizer that I learned was the Roland D70. And that's a weird synthesizer if you think about it. And I actually built patches from scratch on that synthesizer. And I didn't know still, even though I was able to make patches, I was just taking building blocks, and keep in mind, this is all going through the menuing of the keyboard itself. Like one LCD screen, it's got enough rows and columns to get some meaningful information on there at one time. But you're still dialing through everything and listening with your ears, and it's mostly just a lot of stock sample Rompler sounds. And you can kind of pull them in and change the filters, and I think you could even add some raw kind of virtual analog style oscillators to do things like noise and so forth, and mix it together based on the aftertouch when one comes into the other, and add LFOs and so forth. But yeah, that's not valuable. You can learn how to do that, and that's only good for that few select set of Roland synthesizers. And see, I never learned how to use a Korg M1. How do you build patches on a Korg M1? It's maybe similar, maybe completely different. It's probably exactly the same, but a completely different way to do it. If you see what I'm saying.
I was thinking even like the monologue is a really nice one too. Like for instance, if you're just trying to, you're just trying to like learn by sound and by touch and like how to, it's real basic too. So which is kind of nice. So as soon as you turn a knob, you kind of, you kind of understand what's happening when you're just listening to it. So I think that one's a nice one too.
How much menuing do you have to get to change the knobs to do the things that you want them to do?
There's not a whole lot of that. I mean, unless you're trying to do some really like complicated stuff, like I think you can actually change some of the knobs to be like, slightly different, tweaking, parameters and stuff. But for the most part of it, everything that's laid out on the front of it is just real basic. It's just straight to the point. And it also works like in a chain. So you start from the left and work all the way to the right. So everything is just kind of manipulating the next thing that's over to the right. And so, and plus the sounds are really awesome on it too. The LFOs are really cool. That's one thing I like about it is that the LFOs are super like, I guess they're sensitive in a sense, but you can crank them up and make some really cool like metallic sounds and stuff, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, I would.
Plus, you can also put batteries in it too and take it wherever you want it. And so,
well, okay. Any synthesizer that's DC powered can run off of batteries. You just got to know how to.
Yeah, I'm gonna get me one of those rip cords one of these days.
Just get like a little power bank.
But yeah, I was thinking with the Peak. With the Peak, I would get a rip cord and do it that way, and that'd be cool.
I mean, some of them, if it's 9 volts, you can just power it with the 9-volt battery.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But you got to make sure the polarity's correct.
Yeah,
so a lot of them take center negative. So most jacks are not, most DC jacks are not center negative. But back to
and the Volcos are 9-volt.
Yeah, but their DC jacks are not standard size. They're like 1.7 or something like that. You have to get adapters for them.
I had to get a Korg adapter.
That's a strike against Korg right there.
Yes.
I do. You
can't find them either.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have one now. When I bought the modular, I bought it used on Reverb, and it came with one of the Korg adapters. So I feel lucky to have one, and I don't even use it. I don't even use it. Isn't that hilarious?
That's the thing. Korg doesn't really package with a power. You don't even get that, do you? Like I actually had to make one for mine. Like I just got like a
you made one
universal
too?
one.
Gosh, you guys, you make me feel like. God damn it! I'm just joking, but seriously, Haze was talking about that too. You can just make one. No, I'm not gonna make one. I'm so lazy. I'm not gonna do that.
They do sell you like universal ones you can buy, and then just get the right connector. I mean, it's probably not the best way to go because the one that I'm using, it's a little kind of loose, so I have to kind of make sure that it's in there, tight enough to where it doesn't unplug constantly. So yeah. It's tricky.
Loose connections are not good.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
It's a bit MacGyver-y. I don't want to MacGyver too much.
Well, as long as there's batteries in it too, as long as you're using a cable, if it does get unplugged, the batteries kick in right away. So it's kind of a nice feature.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's very handy. I don't like leaving batteries behind.
Neither do I. If they get what do you call it? They start leaking in there.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
I even. This is the receiver or the transmitter, for my microphone. When I packed everything away, I left the batteries in this thing, and I should have taken them out.
Yeah.
And I realized I was like, oh, I forgot to take those batteries out. If I had, for whatever reason, been detained into military service for 2 years, it could happen. Who knows? Those batteries would have leaked.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So what else is new, guys? What else have you settled in to your new place, Haze?
I've kind of settled in. I still have much work to do. This place is pretty cool. It had a lot of fixer upper kind of stuff that I needed to do. What's relevant for this conversation is that I only have 2 areas where I have grounded outlets. So yeah, but you know what? It's not a problem.
Oh no,
it's not a problem. I mean, when you realize how everything is connected in your house, anyways.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's all Romex cable, and the important thing is to get a grounded outlet going though. So all of this is powered. It's grounded properly. I'm not using any of the ungrounded outlets, which are all the handy outlets, of course. The ones that are here, going across this way. So my theory, my estimation is that when it comes to wiring a house with power, it's not breaking code. It's not violating code to have ungrounded outlets as long as they're not next to running water. And I don't know. This is Tennessee, of course. It's different state by state, but the only outlets that are grounded are the ones in the kitchen and the ones in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
And that's my reasoning is that that's where running water is, and that's where somebody would have a hair dryer or microwaves and blenders hooked up over here with motors, and those can be shock hazards. That's where you start getting into this is why things are really grounded, so you don't die.
Yeah.
Otherwise, noise. A lot of what's crazy is when it comes to audio equipment. A lot of times you want to lift the ground and make things really dangerous because you've introduced a ground loop somewhere. Speaking of which, I didn't notice my Roland Boutiques issuing a digital ground hum this time, but I don't have a lot of other things hooked in as well, so that's interesting. That was an expensive solution that I picked by purchasing ISO, I can't even say it anymore, opto isolators, and they're like $10 a piece. So it's kind of like if I don't need them, and I don't know that I'll be able to sell them either. Who's going to buy them from me?
Yeah.
But so my friend that I jammed with, he had the Roland TR8S and the MC707, and the MX1 mixer, performance mixer, by Roland, all next to each other, all the same size, and this is all cool, and they're all hooked up together. And the MX1 mixer bricked them all. I forgot what he said did it.
What?
But they all bricked, and he had to send them all back. And And he had the TR-8S back when we were jamming, but
that's insane.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that happened.
But so he has the 707
shocked.
and the TR-8S, but he doesn't have the MX-1 anymore. I think he's not going to get that again. He's going to just use other mixers.
Like once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah, but he loved it, actually.
You know, man, I wanted that mixer so bad, and everything about it was like, for me, it was like, well, it does this, but it doesn't do this, but it does it in a way that I can't use.
What he said he loved about it was just, and misses about it is just that it had a filter on it, a low-pass filter on every track, just right there, boom. You know.
Wow.
But it does. It has all that stuff and you can sequence it, like motion sequence all the effects and filtering and stuff like that from the mixer as well. It's great.
I'm happy with my S2400 then. It's got filters on every track. Now, it doesn't have effects on every track, but it has individual outputs. So, you know, bring your own effects. Bring your own cables. I'm still trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my studio, by the way. That's what's new for me still is the S2400. I mean, that is...
So are you going to bring everything out now that you've moved, or keep some things...
Yeah, I'm not going to be able
stations?
to... I'm going to try, but I still need to sell some stuff. And I want to wait a little bit longer before I actually start selling anything. I mean, I'm not going to sell anything that's out on the table, but like in terms of like the other stuff I don't have, you know, I want to figure it out. But do I need 4 Roland K25M MIDI controllers? I don't even need one right now, you know.
Yeah.
I've got a VP03 boutique and an A01 boutique that I could sell that I'm not probably going to use. I've got the Soulsby at Megatron, which I definitely don't want to sell. And I think I might be able to get it over here somehow. And the thing is that when Behringer comes out with their Solina, I'm gonna want to get that. That is definitely something that I'm thinking, you know, that I want to get. They've got.
But you already have the VC340.
Yeah, but the Solina is a little different. It sounds very much the same, but not quite. And when you put the two together and run that through an ensemble, a stereo ensemble. Oh, man, dude, it's just like melt away, man. So I kind of want to keep the VP03 around too because, like, well, okay, here's what's cool about the VP03 is that it is a digital USB interface for a vocoder into your computer. So I could, you know, get vocoder type kind of stuff in via USB audio into the computer, which is, you know, that's kind of, all the boutiques have that ability. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not using it that way.
If you're only using that with your computer, and that's what you do. Well, project. I mean, that's part of that's your task right now, and that's what you do. You just,
exactly.
How hard is it to unhook and rehook a USB?
Or I'm like in this particular case, that's all I would be using it for. I'd probably have it here next to the computer instead.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But no, it's always been sort of like my dream to get like all of these vintage ensemble synthesizer kind of hooked up together and running in tandem together. And that's becoming a slow reality. I don't know why, but that sound is just one that I've always just, you know, wanted to have, be able to create.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use it, just lose it. That's right.
Yep. Yeah, no
like
point
that.
in having
like that.
too many. There's no point in having too many tricks. You know, I mean, once it gets overwhelming, it's like, what do I need the most, and what's going to work in my workflow the best? So it's always nice to kind of like clean shop once in a while. And like you said, since you moved, you realize how much stuff you actually do have. So it's kind of nice to just kind of like reanalyze everything and then just be like, well, maybe I don't need all these things, and kind of just figure it out for the best. So
yeah, I've been over that up and down, left and right, and I need every single thing that's in here.
Yeah. I know. Awesome. It always feels like that. Even this theremin right here, I have it. I don't use it, but I have it.
I'll take it.
Yeah. It's cool for like live performance, but like when do I ever get to do that, you know? So but yeah, it's cool.
I have a theremin on the Peak. I'll show it off sometime. It's great. Oh wait, and there's one on the 101 too. Is a voice on there that is set up to just like totally sound like that. And
Yeah, you
slews
can just
between the
kinda-
notes.
You can
It's not
just
quite the
manipulate
same
it.
thing, but I kind of
No,
have an
it's not.
8 oscillator theremin with the Lyra 8.
Uh-huh.
It has the same spirit as the theremin, I think.
Yeah. Does it sound similar? Sound like a theremin?
That is a synthesizer. I think that if you can a luxury synthesizer that I wish everybody could have. And what's wild about Soma is I feel like they make a lot of product. They produce a lot of units. Like there's a lot of their devices out there. The Pulsar 23 not so much right now, but I'm not worried about getting one 3 or 4 years down the road from now someday.
That's weird. I mean, that's weird because they're weird.
Yeah, right. You would think that they're
Yeah.
very kind of like limited in stock and supply and so forth.
That's
It's like,
what I was thinking.
I feel like Dreadbox has less supply than Soma does. But like
because they do the ether, which is really out there. Like, oh
Right.
yeah, this is what your feeling sounds like.
and that's that's kind of a cheaply produced unit. I don't want to say cheap, but it's compared to their other ones, it feels like a cheap plastic toy, to be honest. But I mean, no, it's good plastic though.
But
It's
it's-
very solid, and it's curved plastic, and it's got their logo like embedded in it and everything. So it's like it's molded just for them.
It's for the idea of the function anyway. Right?
But guess how many
As long as it
colors
does
the Lyra 8 comes in now?
that.
It's like
So,
6 or something.
There was the black and white, and I didn't know
Orange.
about any others.
And then green and pink, and I think
Oh.
there's like one more.
Okay. And the
Maybe
Pulsar's
just be the
red.
5, but yeah. And kitty cat.
So just like a question, like your dream synth, if you had all the money that you could, purchase the best synth you could possibly think of, like just don't think about money for a minute. What is your dream synth that you can get right now? Like, I mean, no money, like, if you can get it, for instance, like,
I would even settle with the Erica Synth Syntrax, but the EMI VCS, whatever it's called, the one that Pink Floyd used on Dark Side of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
But to tell you the truth, I would think I would rather have the modern version, the Erica Synths version. I'm more of a new device kind of guy. I'm not a vintage person.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm more on like, I like taking the spirit of the old stuff and then applying, new improved technology to it.
Well, yeah. No, I think
all
you
things
could still call
all
yourself
things being
a vintage
equal,
guy.
no
You'd all like it to
issues.
work.
No issues with capacitors, no issues with old chips or anything like that, all things being equal. But I really, really think that is one of the coolest synthesizers around. Are you familiar with it, AudiosErgeon?
What's the name of it again? I'm sorry.
Mr. Basic, help me out here because I always forget what the original is called because it's the Synthy.
The Synthy, yeah, the EMS Synthy.
EMS Synthy, yeah.
I think it's EMS is the company. And,
yes, EMS.
Yeah, and it was, Pink Floyd used it for the wall.
So it's like a box, but the original had like two, like an L-shaped kind of thing, and both were like just square.
And then
And
it
it
has
had
this
this plug matrix.
plug matrix.
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
You put pins in.
Yeah, and has
Oh, really?
built-in
That's
speakers,
crazy. Uh-huh.
which I'm
Oh,
okay. Pins in
not
the
a huge
holes.
fan of.
Yeah.
It's like a
But,
light bright.
you know-
You put pins in it for the mod matrix. It's this
Doesn't
little
the
mod
ARP
matrix.
2600 have the same kind of thing? It's similar.
No, but it does have the built-in
It's
speakers.
got built-in speakers. Yeah. Didn't
Yeah, I
they
think-
re-release that?
Yes, and Behringer's got a version out as well. So who did it? Like Korg has a version, and I feel like somebody else also did a version, but it's so hard to keep up with all this stuff. And so many of these synthesizers, I'm like, I can't have that synthesizer. I'm not going to have that synthesizer. I can't afford to even think about that synthesizer. So
But
it's
if-
just like, ching.
But if you could, like a wish, like just one synth.
Well, yeah, that
you
would be
wish
the
you
one
could have,
probably.
That would be
But
it.
the thing is that I feel like I've already got it.
Yeah.
And that's the Delta Sep A, which is hands down one of my. See, I'm a different synthesizer kind of person. I've talked about this before, but like I'm not a piano player.
Yeah.
I don't need 16 voices, polyphony. I don't need multi-timbrality out of all this kind of stuff. I'm happy with a mono voice.
Mm-hmm. Although,
as long as I can do some stuff. But the Delta Sep is like, it's one of those synthesizers where it is like, it's a virtual analog.
Mm-hmm.
So it's digital, but it tries to be, like an analog synthesizer, and it does it remarkably well, unlike any of the other ones. And I don't need built-in effects either, but this synthesizer has built-in effects. And they're the kind of effects where you want to get a microphone and plug into it and speak and sing into it.
Mm-hmm.
It invites you to do that kind of thing with it. The tape delay is stereo. It bounces back and forth, and you can just control the speed of it left and right. It sounds pretty analog for being totally digital. Love that thing. Sorry. And it's not cheap.
Yeah.
It's like a $1,200 synth.
Uh-huh.
It comes in Eurorack or desktop. So like most people get the Eurorack, but I mean, the problem with things like that is it's this big. So if you're a Eurorack guy, right, or gal, you don't want this real estate this wide going into your rack. It takes up a whole lot of space.
It's fine.
In this case, though, you get a lot of utility. You get. Let me think about this for a second. I think
have
it's
the
CV
System
to
1
MIDI.
here. You just put it in a different box.
No, it's MIDI to CV. It's a MIDI to CV converter. You got a really great LFO, and the oscillator you can quantize the oscillator like you can on the subharmonicon. So when you apply an LFO to it, same thing with the subharmonicon, you make it step up and down the notes like a scale. That's really cool.
Yeah, this new module came out. I'm not going to talk modular or go into it or anything, but this new module.
Well,
came out
what's your like synthesizer you want?
Yeah.
If price wasn't.
Okay, so I feel like I'm just feeling like I did good. I spent 4 years racking my brain on what would be the best and what would be the best. Maybe I didn't consider the Moog 1. Maybe I'm not really considering the Prophet X, but because of the price. But like I feel like I really did good with the Peak. But it makes me just feel like I want a Summit too. I want a Summit as well because I want more. I want the Peak to do the chords and do the lead, and maybe have those be two different patches. But so I either want another Peak and another Peak, or probably a Summit would be a good idea. Except maybe I would like. Okay, if it's a good key bed, that would be great too. I don't know though.
For me, oh man, I'm going big. A System 55. How about that? And I almost had one too. I almost had one. It's a funny story. I don't know if you guys want to hear it, but
yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm sure Haze knows. Him and I were talking a little bit about this, but there was some stuff going on the internet about this guy Upshot who had this new crypto called Upcoin that I invested in, and yeah, I could have had like 6 figures like a couple of days ago, and the whole thing just took a big dump.
Well, at the wrong time.
Yeah.
I guess,
yeah. Luckily, I pulled out just before it tanked to like 0. But I could have been looking at some crazy money. And this guy just kind of disappeared, and people are looking for him right now. It's almost like a crazy like mystery movie type thing. It's just everything is so weird. And I even got involved with the guy. I did an interview with him on YouTube. And I talked to him. And I would have never thought this guy was even capable of doing something like this. So it just blows my mind. But the thing
it all happened in 2 weeks. I want to add that all went down in two weeks.
I bought in very, very early, and I had like a ton of them. Like I'm talking billions of these tokens. And if it hit a penny, I mean, I'd probably be looking at like something close to like $70 million in dollars.
Yeah. But it took Doge longer than that to try to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well,
like
that's the.
I gotta say, don't worry about it. Don't it. Man, okay. First of all, you get all that money. How are you gonna convert it into cash? Do you realize the amount of sharks that come after you? It gets scary really quick. You want to just a little rise, a little bit here, a little bit here. You don't want to do this because it's bad.
No,
it's bad.
And I felt even like really weird when it was happening too. Like it was happening so fast, and like, okay, I was excited that I could make some money, right? But I was also at the same time very nervous because something in the back of my head was telling me, like, what if people panic and this thing just goes out of control? And this dude that started the whole thing, Upshot, like completely disappeared. No one knew what happened. We might have thought he got kidnapped. He was threatened. I don't know. Who knows? Committed suicide. But we found out that he just was breaking under pressure, I guess. He couldn't handle it. So
well, he decided to get out of it then. So what do you do then? You pretty much, he should have declared it though, instead of just
Did you hear
disappearing.
about it? Did you hear about it?
Oh, no, I know nothing.
Oh, watch. I have actually a video on my YouTube channel of his confession or his, like, I guess, final words on it.
Uh-huh.
It is spooky. I mean, it really is. It looks like something that like Al Qaeda put together.
So maybe he feels bad
does
for
have that tone.
It does.
I mean, you just feel like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, imagine the kind of pressure,
Yeah.
It's unreal pressure. That's why, like, I never wanted to get into that stuff, was because for this exact same reason, is because you've got families who are like invested in this thing and they're dependent upon this, and that's way too much responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
So, lessons learned on that one.
I kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, people lost money and they are hunting for this guy. And so
I can only imagine.
He's got to be, peeing his pants.
Scared?
Right now.
Yeah.
Just telling you right now. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, the guy was so like knowledgeable and he should have just not did it, man. I mean, the guy had a good career. He had a good YouTube channel, almost 100,000 subscribers, and he talked about Doge. And I think they're just people that came out after him about like, you're abandoning Doge and you're doing this project. And then maybe he got threats from like guys with real money or something, and they just wanted him to shut it down. I mean, it's all speculation right now.
Of course.
So.
I mean,
yeah.
We'll know more as things come out, but I still sincerely think that, one, he didn't rip anybody off, and like he wasn't in this to rip people off, and I think that something external happened, like something in the market took this coin down, like like it was like a force of nature that was initiated by a human being or a group of human beings for reasons we may never find out, but it's why, like, there's going to be a lot of these coins and tokens coming out, these alt cryptocurrencies. And, this is why I would say, like, if you really believe in something and you want to be a supporter, don't just buy into it, Figure out how you actually get, like, one of those tokens that they only issue out. Those are those are really hard to get, by the way. I don't know if you ever got into, like, a token issuance kind of thing. Sometimes you need to have about 10 grand to start to get into one of these things, which is way above my play level. But, it's completely different than buying in a whole bunch of tokens when it first hits the market.
Yeah.
I'd say wait months, see what it does on the market first next time.
He even said that he put a lot of his own money into it. So like when they first started the liquidity pool, I think he put like 50 grand into it.
Yeah, I would put as much money as I had into, if I started my own crypto, I would definitely want, because, if all goes well, you stand to make a lot of money because you're one of the original first. But anyways, we're getting off topic. But I want to say it's what I said before, when it comes to gas and wanting these things and wanting all these synthesizers, like, I think once you get, I hate to be this way. I don't want to sound like grandpa over here or anything like that, or once you get a bunch of synthesizers, you realize, okay, I don't need any more, man. I don't want any more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want a Moog 1. I don't know what I would do with it. That thing is this big. Where would it go? And the amount of time it takes to learn how to use that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm bragging a little bit, but I can mostly do most of what I can do with the Moog 1 with what I have already over here.
I was actually
because of all the effects that I have.
Yeah. And the thing I was actually kind of surprised about the Moog One, I actually had the chance to check it out at Sweetwater. I actually went there in Indiana, and like the keyboard, I was really disappointed in it.
Really?
Like, unless it's just like a prototype, it seemed like the keys were very like thin and just like, I don't know, like even my Complete Control feels more sturdy than the Moog One that they had. But I mean, I don't know, the capabilities that it's possibly able to handle maybe overweighs that, but yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't as impressed with it as I thought I would be.
I feel the same way about keybeds. I don't feel like there's hardly any really good feeling keybeds out there, and sometimes you come across them.
Yeah.
And it ruins a otherwise really good piece of gear to not have the keybed be up there.
True.
I'm not so picky, I don't guess, just a drummer.
Yeah.
But no, I hear you. Surprisingly, the VC340 back here has a decent keybed. I think the proof is in the pudding, though, unfortunately, with keybeds 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. How well are they going to last? Those are one of the most critical things, and I'm glad that I don't have a lot of keybeds in my studio, to tell you the truth. I've only got like 2, 3, and then like the 4 that I talked about before, and those are like only like an octave and a half. They're like tiny little keybeds. But when you get into a synthesizer, and especially like a real synthesizer that has a keybed and everything, those are the notoriously most hardest sections to repair, are the keybeds.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, you can totally screw everything up. From what I understand, to the point of where it's really unrepairable. Like that one key or a couple keys will never be right ever again if you screw it up. So
question, do you guys prefer keys or like buttons, like push buttons and stuff? What's your favorite?
I prefer buttons. So when it comes to, check this out, when it comes to sequencing drums, I will generally get the velocity up to about 120, and I'll just do step sequencing. And if I need a softer sound, I'll change the velocity, and I will hardly ever actually perform the drums myself. Because that's how picky I am about drums. If I can't get it just right, I ain't going to get it at all. I'm going to make it stupid simple, and I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to keep it just like that. When it comes to sequencing everything else, I mean, same thing. I try to get the velocity about as high as I want to, and I control the volume some other way. I generally don't. I will someday get into stuff that's more emotional based, like soundtrack, emotional type kind of things where you have swelling things kind of come up and so forth. I can just control that with the fader on the mix and so forth. But, if I need that, I'll cross that bridge someday. I looked into getting a huge Oberheim. I forget the model number, but it's an old MIDI controller. It has a few sounds on board, and the bottom of it is the case. So it has a top, and the bottom itself, like the keyboard is actually built into the case. They had one in the old city I was living in, and I probably could have picked it up for maybe $400 or $500, but it doesn't have aftertouch at all. And I was like, if I want to get a keyboard like that, move over. No. But the keys were weighted. They felt great.
Ooh, yeah,
but wouldn't you want them to have aftertouch? Wouldn't you feel like you're kind of and the thing must have weighed 150, 200 pounds.
Wow.
But I'll end it by saying that I now have my Wind controller, and I now have it set up so I can sequence anything I want to with the Wind controller.
Cool.
So I play saxophone. That's how I started. So I can just maybe that's why I'm into monophonic stuff too.
And it goes to MIDI. It can be written down in MIDI on your pyramid, and
yes, it's amazing. It's hard to explain. I'm using a Bluetooth MIDI adapter.
Okay.
Because even though the device has radio audio out, like a radio signal, it does not have Bluetooth MIDI built in. And I think they did that because it's power considerations. Because it does drain the battery more.
Yeah. The thing about a keyboard, I would love to get like a weighted one, so it kind of feels like a piano. Like,
yeah, that's the way to go, right?
yeah, it would be kind of neat to just feel it, like I do enjoy like I have the complete control. I think it's the S61. It's semi-weighted. It's nice and it's quick and everything, but like a real nice keyboard would be like a weighted one with the weights in it. That'd be really cool. And Aftertouch, you said has Aftertouch in it as well. Now, how much, like, do you need Aftertouch in your situation? Do you really care about Aftertouch, or is that kind of like just a nice add-on?
Absolutely not. But why would I want weighted keys if it didn't have Aftertouch?
Yeah.
What I mean,
yeah,
I mean, what's the point of enjoying the dynamics
Well,
that
actually,
the weighted keys give you? I mean,
the way
you're
that
always
they-
going to get like the same velocity, right? And it might feel nice, but at the expense of everything, of the real estate that I'm using for such a key bed, no, it needs to have Aftertouch.
Yeah.
Even if I don't
especially-
use it.
In general, weighted keys are like for the piano feel are like not the same as as the synth keys that we want Aftertouch with, because
I know.
the weighting is about it feeling like a piano, and so Aftertouch
I know, but I
won't
want
really
that.
come into effect. But it does, like on what the Yamahas do, that all the Yamaha workstations, probably the good Korg workstations, but I don't know, because so where I worked only had the Yamahas. But yeah, that
And
would
it should be-
definitely have that.
Fully polyphonic too.
Yeah.
So, so here's the thing, why not just play piano at that point?
True. Yeah.
Like if
right,
I really
don't want
wanted that
fully
expression.
weighted. Yeah. I
Like,
like the
yeah,
piano
like
keys,
so
though.
what I've been doing instead of like trying to go for that feel that you get from an acoustic mechanical type kind of thing, is to just eschew it all together and do the exact opposite and just embrace programming everything in that sense.
Yeah, programming your expression,
Or
or doing it from something else besides the key.
exactly. Instead like get the expression in there through filter sweeps, adding some resonance, adding effects to it. I don't know, man. I find there's a whole other vast or broad array to discover using that kind of technique.
Okay, I've never liked Aftertouch. I've always hated Aftertouch. Particularly hated it. My only experience with it is to hate it, is when it comes in when I don't want it to, and because my System 1, by default, it goes detune. It's to detune.
Oh, did you tune the key? Okay.
So
if I press down too hard on a key,
That could be kind of cool
I'm playing
too,
anything.
though.
it could be.
It'd be better if it went up or something. Then you could hit like a key down and go up.
So I've always thought, like,
Other way.
separate that expression from the keys. Dang it. Like, I don't want that. It's like when I don't want it, I want to be able to play like this and know that I'm not going to accidentally hit an Aftertouch thing. That's
Yeah.
what I've always felt, except for now. This has poly Aftertouch, and oh my gosh, you should. Okay, all right. I'm gonna plug this one guy's channel.
Okay.
It's and echo, all one word, and just like you, AudiosErgeon, he has the capital E in the middle. So and
really?
capital E echo, and capital and or capital A and capital E echo, but it's one word. So and echo, and he is putting the Launchpad Mark III, which has poly Aftertouch buttons, with the peak, and it becomes this amazing expressive instrument. And before that, he used the Linstrument. Same thing.
Okay. That is one that I look at and I go, okay, no, that overwhelms me. That is
So
looks
I'm gonna
cool,
get
though.
a Mark
It looks
III.
cool.
I'm gonna
the
get
instrument.
Yeah.
because and the
the
poly
Micro
Aftertouch
Freak.
will just
Oh,
be
go ahead.
an added bonus. Getting the Launchpad Pro Mark III, that'll just be an added bonus having that poly Aftertouch. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna play the peak with buttons, when the fact is I've always kind of felt so and so about buttons, because I get a little bit tired from pressing them for over an hour or so on the circuit.
Now, do you mean the pads or do you mean buttons?
But the pads.
Okay. I mean, underneath them, there's like, well, it depends. Sometimes the pads, it's not just a simple button underneath.
But the Pro Mark III, they're better than the other launch pads, like way better. Like ultra sensitive when you just barely touch it.
Nice.
To all the way down. Yeah. So it'll be if it's a good pro controller like that, it's which it just seems like watching all the videos of people, it's just like, whoa, yeah, this is way better than the other launch pads and feels better. So that's why I'm gonna go with that for Aftertouch, and actually be cool with Aftertouch now because of this. Because the patches actually are cool. It's per patch has either Aftertouch thing or it doesn't have an Aftertouch thing and it's off.
Gotcha.
Much better than the System 1 in my experience.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. I want to mention real quick, the MicroFreak has Aftertouch. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
Depending upon the amount of surface area that you cover.
Well, it has pressure sensitivity, but do they call it Aftertouch?
It's not pressure sensitive.
Okay.
It's the amount of surface area that you cover that causes a capacitance. So it increases the capacitance the more that you cover the pad, the key with. So if you just like touch it down, then you can like do this with it and kind of rock your finger back and forth. I've shown the MicroFreak to a number of people, and the first thing they do is they're just like stab, and I'm like, no.
That's why I had a hard time with it. I think it's just I couldn't get it down.
Yeah. Sometimes those touch strip, like piano things, whatever. I kind of don't know if I would really like that so much, but I've never really tried it, so I guess I can't say anything about it. But would you recommend the MicroFreak? I mean, is it cool to have, like, just in general?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of hype on it. Yeah,
you can get a used one for under $250.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something interesting I'd like to talk about real quick before we wrap up. We can go as long as you guys want. So the MicroFreak has two options to power. You can either use USB, which is 5 volts, or it comes with a 12-volt adapter, PSU, power supply unit, whatever. 12 volts is a lot. So, that's more than 9 volts. Now, one thing I've noticed is that, like some guitar pedals that are like especially all analog, some compressors and overdrives, they give you an option of going between 9 volts to 12, all the way up to 18 volts. And with those, it actually makes sense to use as high of a voltage as you are allowed to use, because it increases the headroom that it's working within to amplify your signal. So this, in turn, equates to how much signal is pumping out of that device. So how strong is that signal coming out of the MicroFreak? Well, it doesn't matter a sack of beans if on the other side of that 12-volt adapter or jack is a 5-volt regulator. It sucks, actually. What that means is all that 12 volts is just immediately getting knocked down to 5 volts, and it's wasted power.
Well, at least you don't have an inconsistency in how it sounds and the volume when you plug it into different things.
You see,
like
that's
the 101, I have inconsistency.
Okay, well then you'd want to go with the higher voltage then. As long as it's
always want to go with the
recommended.
higher voltage. Yeah.
So in this case, in the past, this whole past year, I've been powering the MicroFreak with the USB 5 volts, and I haven't noticed any issues whatsoever. I mean, it hasn't been quiet or like distorted or clipped or anything, and something. It's been fine. So I'm questioning, well, why would I want to why would I want to waste all that power? And they give you this big honk, and look at this thing. This is the power supply that came with it. It's one of these jobbies that has, one of these. I don't know what this is called, what that end connector is called. It's not like the standard ones that you can plug into a computer or like a TV monitor.
Yeah.
Well, is it because it's all digital?
No, I mean
that it wouldn't matter.
That's just it. No, you see, like most digital stuff runs off of 5 volts.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's all digital, right?
So why is this 12 volts?
MicroFreak?
The MicroFreak, right? So why is this 12 volts? I mean, 9 volts I could understand. I wouldn't be asking any questions because 9 volt is very standard.
Well, no, 12 volt is the standard.
No, not really.
All my like the mini Brute's 12 volt, the monostation's 12 volt, all the
standard for the beefier ones. Like all of my analog, the DFAM, the subharmonicon, all the Behringers, they're all 12 volts. See what I'm saying? Now here's the difference. Yeah. Here's the difference. Take the At Megatron, the Soulsby At Megatron. That is one that uses. That's in the name At Megatron. It uses the AT mini chip inside of it, which is what is used in the Arduinos. The Arduinos use the AT chip. They just use it and provide an interface that's really easy for people to use to interface with it, digitally and analog. Mm-hmm. So the Soulsby makes no bones about that. It's using essentially an Arduino inside of it, which you could build an Arduino synthesizer for $10. And so I was looking at this thing, and once I started learning electronics and discovering this stuff, and I looked at the At Megatron, I was like, oh geez, well maybe this isn't all that great of a synthesizer after all. It is, but when I opened it up and looked on the inside, because it too takes 12 volts, but it does not power off of 5 volts whatsoever. It doesn't give you an option to go between either one or the other. It's actually using analog filters, and it's using that 12 volts to get that headroom that I was talking about, to take the signal and to apply the filters,
right?
So that you get a beautiful. And I'm speaking out of my range now. I'm not exactly sure how that equates to the sound.
No, I've totally
what actual qualities there are.
I totally understand that.
But it's better. So that makes sense if you see what I'm saying. When I discovered that and I looked at it, I said, okay, this 12 volts makes sense. For the Microfreak, though, I'm still thinking, nope, I'm not going to power with 12 volts. I'm going to continue powering it with 5 volts.
Yeah.
Because I read the instructions, the manual, just get some kind of a clue as to what it wanted to do. And it doesn't really speak too much on it, but then it says, and it's so convenient, you can just power it with your, any power bank when you're on the go and everything. So I'm like, well, why would you not just power it that way when you're in the go?
And it doesn't have onboard effects.
No.
So you don't have to worry about powering that.
Sure.
No, it does have filters, though.
Okay.
But they're all digital.
Yeah,
right.
cool.
Yeah, so the only thing I have at this point, I have to crack it open and follow on the circuit board, see if I can figure out if there's a voltage regulator in there, right on the first thing that the DC jack sees would be a voltage regulator.
Yeah.
There may be some of that signal going out somewhere else,
yeah.
Which is what happens in the At Megatron. Because you see, Arduinos can only be powered off of 5 volts. If you give them more than 5 volts, they blow up. They don't blow up, but they smoke.
Yeah. I'm
the
totally
teensies,
lost when it comes to power stuff. I have no idea.
It's confusing until you realize how simple it is. It's so sad, because it's like I wish I could just go, boop, there you go. But yeah, like 3 years ago, I was on the same side of the fence. Mm-hmm. I would just be like, oh, nope. And again, I got into this to learn how synthesizers work. I'm going to make oscillators. I'm not going to do that power stuff because that's how you get shocked. It's dangerous. And then one of the first things I realized is that, power is an oscillator too.
Yeah, just recently my microwave actually broke, and I was thinking I could probably fix it. Let me open it up and just check and see what's in there. What's broke? And I was like, nah, no thanks. I don't want to die today.
Yeah. Don't.
I heard you have to like what do you call short? There's something in there you have to actually short out so the electricity isn't flowing through it, and it's like I'd rather not. No thanks.
There is some box inside of every microwave that you do not want to open up because it has cancerous material inside of it.
Ooh, that's not good either.
Yes. So you really want to know what you're doing in a microwave. They're really not that dangerous. I will say this though. Okay, so I have a Geiger counter. I now have a Geiger counter, and I tested it on the microwave. So I turned it on, spun around the microwave, didn't get any clicking, nothing going on. Put some hot water in the microwave, started it up. Click, 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 click. There's definitely radiation coming out near the microwave. As I walked away from it, just about this far, no more radiation being detected.
Yeah. I've always
stop the
told people stand away from your microwave when you're using it. Like it's a real
Yes.
thing. Like you don't just not worry about it. Oh no, this is safe because it's in it's in our house and they sell it to us. No.
Yes. There's also a reason why it beeps several times. And it's not to tell you that it's finished, right? It's to say, wait until it's done beeping, now open the door. Because now the radiation has cleared. And the other thing is that then, so I like tested with the Geiger counter while it was off and and it fades away. And then the final test was to put it near the water itself, and it was still a little radioactive. That's why you want to wait about 30 seconds to a minute before you start eating your food out of a microwave. Otherwise, they're perfectly safe, I think. Don't quote me on that, people in the future.
Well, that's the way to be really, really, really safe if you are worried about it.
I barely use
Hey,
them.
I don't use a microwave.
Yeah, same here. I usually use like a toaster oven or something like that. I barely use a microwave. I mean,
Yeah, I don't have one here at my new place at all.
yeah.
So I don't mind them. I just don't. I'm like, for me, it's more of a lifestyle. Like I have to force myself, to get in my car and drive to a fast food restaurant and go through the drive-through.
I like that it has a little clock on it, and so I always know what time it is on the microwave. So that's a nice
Right.
That's all I use it for.
There are these rice bowls at Costco where you can just you flip up the little peel up the little top a little bit on the side of it, put it in the microwave 90 seconds, and it's the nicest, stickiest rice you've ever. It's no Uncle Ben or anything like that. This is like good stuff. And so I get these little rice bowls from Costco, and it's just rice, and just put it in 90 seconds, boom, you're done. Really sticky rice. It's great.
Man, Costco is awesome. I got to go there soon. They have so many cool things.
I want a rice cooker.
Yeah.
That's what I want to get, is a rice cooker.
Yeah. Or I do have like this. It's a pressure cooker, and it makes the best rice too. So like you can get like just a rice cooker that works awesome. But like this one that I have, it does everything. It's like beans. You can do like soups. You can do anything. But it does rice awesome. It does.
Yeah, it could be a crock pot too.
Yeah. Also crock pot. Is this
cool? Yeah.
Ghost pepper ramen noodles.
Oh boy.
Oh my
Nice.
goodness. Yeah, I thought about maybe like eating those on Twitch once I start streaming.
Yeah.
Because like on Twitch you have like rewards that you can do, like the longer you stay in chat, hint people in chat, the more points you gather, and then you can use these points to redeem rewards. So I could set it up like after 1,000 points you can make me eat spicy ramen noodles or something.
Oh my goodness.
That kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually ate one of these before and I survived.
Oh man. How was it?
Man, these are really good noodles. The fork, it's bent in half. It's got like a hinge, and it pulls up. It's a tiny little fork, but they're really high quality noodles, and the heat is unreal. I mean, the heat is absolutely unreal. I just ate it as fast as I could, and I had some rice water to help cool it down. I had to drink like 32 ounces of rice water.
There was a point in time where my wife and I were actually eating habanero, like peppers, and we would just like try to eat like one every day and then get used to it. Yeah. Oh, now I eat like jalapenos all the time now, so I have no problem with that. But if you do have a problem with them, yeah, that's not fun. But we tried to kind of like
take the seeds out
of the habanero
of any of them. I would always remove the seeds.
It makes them a little
we would
milder.
just pop the whole thing
and
then just like suffer through it. But after a while, you'd be surprised. You start to kind of like get used to it. Yeah. Now it takes like almost like a month to really get used to the spiciness and all that stuff. But it's kind of like an interesting thing to try out if you're brave enough, I guess.
It's funny how your body does
I
get
think it's
used
good
to
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But be careful if you touch them, like. For instance, you cut them and the stuff's on your hands. If you touch your face, you will just be like on fire. Your eyes will just like, it's bad.
Yeah.
Like you don't want that.
While we're on the topic of just strange random stuff, like it's an oil. Like when you touch that stuff, it's an oil. So when you go to wash it off, you got to wash it off like you have to visualize that you've got motor oil. on your skin, and you could see that. You would know how much how much soap and water it takes to get that off. Same thing with poison ivy. If you get if you get poison ivy on you, you got to like scrub really hard, and then you won't have a really bad allergic reaction to it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with cat food. I have to feed my cats wet cat food now, and if you get it on your hands, you can't just wash it off with water because it's the oil, and it's just like oh my god.
Cat food is what's that doing inside the cat?
Oh
but it's
man,
great. Fish oil,
like
it's great.
I had a cat a long time ago, and he used to go to the the laundry baskets, and if he needed to use the restroom, he'd go in there. You would smell it. Oh, it would clear the house. It would be bad.
Oh my god, my neighbor's cat. He has a Maine Coon. He's only 1 year old, and he's like this big.
Yeah.
I mean, he is huge, and he used
cat,
the litter box a while back, and he cleared. I was like, I'm out. I'm out. I got to go.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
This cat that you just saw is a Maine Coon, but she is the smallest Maine Coon ever. She was the runt, like total runt. They're usually huge, and she's just like small for some reason. I don't know why.
She's a big cat.
But yeah.
For a runt.
But Maine Coons get that much bigger.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And he's still growing. He's not finished growing either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cats.
But hey, cats and synthesizers, seriously.
They go together.
And that's why I had to get the cat.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw the cat, it was like, okay, I don't need the synthesizer. I mean, I was like, one of the first things I thought about, okay, you've got the Model D, the K2, the cat, the Wasp. What's the overlap? How do these all not sound exactly the same? Right? And I was shocked at how vastly different they are from each other. And I'm still shocked at how vastly different they are from each other.
I see the cat as like the micro or the mini brute or the micro brute in your erect form.
I would out of those four, the cat is my favorite. The Model D is the one that I've had the most time and I've grown to really love it, but the cat is the one that just I was like, "Oh, I had no idea it could do this." And its LFO goes so fast and so slow, and it shows you the actual it brags about how slow it goes. So it's like 0.2 hertz or something.
That's nice. Oh my gosh, you never get a slow enough LFO.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it mixes the two oscillators together, you can get that really cool chiptune type kind of effect, because that's one of the qualities of chiptunes is that you don't have polyphony at all. A lot of the stuff you've got. I mean, you do, but you have to stack a lot of the sounds so that they don't overlap each other. And that's one of the tricks to getting authentic chiptune sounds is not allowing the sounds to is to put this restriction of polyphony upon yourself. Actually, that would be more like multi-temporality almost. And I think if you do that, you'll find that your songs are actually sounding a lot more chiptuney already, because it's that back and forth and fast back and forth too, because that's part of the thing is that they didn't want it to sound like anything was lacking, like any one particular part was missing. So it was like at a fast kind of rate.
So laying down each line separately, each melodic line separately that are going at the same time. You're laying them down separately as you're composing. So it's kind of like they're playing with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Get like an actual SID chip emulator, like for your computer or something, and try to program it. And hopefully it will be like one that has all the limitations. It's not trying to, improve upon the limitations.
I found a nice VST. It's called Basic 64 or 65, something like that. And it's really nice for chiptune sounds. And you can just throw that right into your your DAW or whatever. And it's like instant gratification.
You just have the sounds though, right? You're not actually.
You can adjust some stuff, but I don't really know.
Like it's the sequencer that I'm talking about, because when they made the music for these games back in the day.
Yeah.
Right? They had to use what was on board of the computer or the console, like Atari 2600, for example. Whatever it had to offer. And this is why they did those things, is because they ran into all of these limitations.
Well, yeah, so the tracker workflow, people are picking up on the poly-end tracker and hardware, where that actually is a lot more intuitive than a tracker ever was. And
Yes.
but it still sounds different because you're laying down the parts separately and laying down the parameters separately, and
That's
so
right.
notes play with each other in a different way.
That's
like
the important
video
thing
game.
about using the Poly and tracker is to use it as a tracker.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take anything you want to and try to do traditional songwriting with it, or like recording, looping MIDI type kind of style with it. Like I wouldn't use a track. I would actually try to like type in stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they did with the tracker. I wouldn't want to actually record MIDI from a controller into the Poly, and I'd want to actually, do it the hard way.
Yeah, and that's fun too. Yeah, I've seen those.
No, it's horrible.
Poly-
It's terrible. It's not fun at all.
Well, if you know what you're doing, but yeah,
Enrique-
it can become fun once you get better
Yeah.
at it.
Enrique Martinez made it look like it was easy and made me feel like I could understand what I was looking at when he was doing it. But nobody else so far, except for that one video that I saw like last week, and it was like, oh yeah, well that sounds like just fun, and like you can do it. You could even do it live,
Yeah,
just
you
coming up
can.
with a track and watching somebody come up
did.
with a track. He did a good job of just making it seem smooth and comfortable.
wasn't that look mum no computer guy using one of those things too?
Yeah.
Oh,
was
he's
one-
yeah.
Yeah,
He's all
It
about
loo-
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He
It
was
looks
like,
cool.
great.
It looks cool, but yeah, like I mean, when you're talking about it, it's really complicated just understanding what's happening there. And all
Yeah,
that.
he's always had the Nerd Sec, which is the Eurorack version of a tracker.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has a big screen.
Yeah, that's what.
And
it was.
trackers, I think, were more popular, like in the late '80s, early '90s in Europe than they were here in the United States. There was plenty of that going on here in the United States, but I really, I watched a documentary. I can't remember what it's called, but it was mainly I can't really remember what it was about. It was a very vague documentary, but part of it was talking about the actual tracker culture, and people would use trackers to build demos that they would trade about and they would send to each other. And these were the same people that would crack the games. You see, this is where we start getting into controversy. So all of the old computer games that you had to order like directly from the companies, or just go to your local mall and get them at some computer store or something. They were all you had cracked versions. If you could get onto a BBS and had probably a Watts line, so you didn't have to pay for the long distance connection, because you would be up all night long, my friends, that is, downloading one of these games, and they would be cracked, so that you didn't have to have the disc inside the actual disc. I can't remember what it was on there, something, but whatever.
Those were
so
the
the
days.
people that would crack it, they would always do a demo at the beginning of it, because they were like, hey, I took all this time to crack this. And they were also, I guess, kind of like into making music, jamming. They were like some of the early hardware jammers, maybe the first hardware jammers, if we think about it, because I mean, in terms of that kind of music and that kind of underground culture.
Well, accessibility at home.
And that, yeah. So, but have you guys have seen these?
What?
I'm sorry.
You cut out, Haze.
Yeah, I think
I
his
can't hear you,
battery
Haze.
on this thing might have went out. Yeah.
That's all good.
Batteries.
Yeah.
That's batteries for you.
Yeah. But batteries are good because you can just, you know.
Hopefully you can just recharge them. I like rechargeable ones. Yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice, actually. Yeah. I just get them in bulk at Costco, like
Yeah, same
20,
here. I get the
20 at a
ones-
time.
Yeah, I get those too.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. But yeah, have you guys seen demos for these games that I'm talking about, for like the Commodore 64? That's probably before your time, and they're highly illegal. So
It's before my time. I was a kid.
Yeah.
I
I
haven't
wasn't
tried
paying
this.
attention.
We could probably go to YouTube and do a search for like tracker demo, and I guarantee you that people have been uploading these demos that I'm talking about. Like, just take them to video and then upload that to YouTube for posterity.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazing stuff. Like, not just only the music is really great early techno, but you've got a lot of great visuals that they did as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys what are you feeling like you need right now? What are you gassing for? What are you thinking? Like you're missing, or like, what are you thinking?
Honestly, like right now, I think I'm just complete right now. I really don't utilize everything that I'm using right now, like such as like analog hardware and stuff. I've been mostly doing stuff like, well, really just podcasting and a little bit of music on my computer, but I do have to get back on the gear. That's just one thing I've been kind of not doing lately, is actually just doing things in a live environment. So, but yeah, nothing really right now.
Just waiting for the next time to get back on it.
Yeah, the Micro Freak sounds kind of cool, but I mean, right now I think I'm all invested in some other things, so I'm gonna cool it for a while. I've been spending way too much money lately.
Mm-hmm.
I need infrastructure. I've got plenty, but I need a way to get my cameras set up.
Camera,
but I don't know if that counts or not in terms of like.
Yes, it
sense
does.
that I don't need, that I want. Well, definitely the Pulsar 23. But I'm glad that I didn't get one. I probably could have had one right now. I was on the pre-order. I declined when the time came around because I didn't have the money, and then bam, I had the money like right after I declined.
Well, maybe it's a sign.
Too late. Yeah, I think it was, right? And I also passed on getting a Syntrax. And I think what it is, I just said to myself, you know what? The 2,000 mark, I'm not ready for it yet. I like keeping it a little, I've got a few things that are about the $1,000, and they're kind of like, ooh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So if you get anything new, I mean, it's pretty much what you'd be thinking of, is you're just kind of like got your feelers out there for anything that's new and different, and adds something that's never been, something unique and cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm pretty much good to go. I mean, Behringer has lately been kind of irking me because they're coming out with these Mark IIs, but their Devilfish TD3, I don't see how that's not going to end up in my arsenal at some point.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go out of my way to get one now. They probably won't be shipping for any time soon. But the way I look at it is maybe 2 years from now, maybe even sooner than 2 years from now, get one on Reverb used for pretty darn cheap.
Yeah.
But I'd rather mod my own, is the thing.
Really?
But that's gonna be
you would rather mod your own.
It's gonna be a hard thing to mod though, because it's all SMD.
Maybe you can't mod it the way it is. Maybe you can't mod it to the extent that the MO did.
You can, but it would be really hard to do. You totally could. If they did, yeah, somebody else could. But man, you got to sit there and measure everything 3 times, because once you drill it, right? Once you drill those holes.
Yeah.
And so they probably had a PCB actually specially printed for this. I guarantee they probably didn't do the modifications. They just had it manufactured that way.
Yeah, but that's why I thought it was really cool, because it's like the circuit bent one that you don't have to circuit bend.
Right? I mean, you look at it like,
A little overdrive.
Okay, what did I do with my January this year? Like when I went through 30 different overdrive and distortion and fuzz pedals, different varying kind of areas of tonalities. It's very interesting how like 2 different distortion pedals can. But they really do money going through pedals trying to find the right one with their setup. So when I look at the Devilfish and everything, I'm like, well, it's like you added a fuzz distortion or like an overdrive there. The sub oscillator is interesting, but how beefy is it? How beefy can it really be, that sub oscillator that they added? I'd argue,
Have you seen comparison videos?
Not yet, no.
I saw a couple. But you never know from those either, of course.
I kind of stopped watching those a long time ago, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't avoid them intentionally. It's just now I'm at the point to where it doesn't even cross my mind to go look for one. You see what I'm saying? Every once in a while, I'll be curious about something, and I might check out some demo video just to get an idea. But one thing I've learned is that ears are deceiving across the internet. And you don't, it's like, it's not until you actually physically operate the device, I don't think, till you really, really get to know what it's really capable of doing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can divine from your own ideas about that person's situation, however they made a video. Everything's always different, and you can maybe see like how they did it and how they explain. Well, I did this, but I didn't do that, or something like that, and then you can glean from it some things, but never the whole picture. Never how it's going to be for you.
Nope. And how's it going to fit into your? And how's it going to gel into your existing setup?
Yeah. Well, you said the Pulsar 23. If I am not done yet, I'm pretty much done. If I can always use my MC 101 as a drum machine for drum patterns and stuff like that. But I still need a dedicated drum machine. That's just my drum machine, and I'm gonna go with the TR6S still. And since it doesn't have the velocity sensitive pads, I'll do MIDI into it with pads that are velocity sensitive, and it'll be fine.
Nice.
But I just love the way it works. I love the TR8S.
You don't need velocity sensitivity for drums anyways.
Not necessarily. It's really quick to even program it in on the fly while it's playing too.
Oh no, I believe you. Like playing drums though, like there's generally only about like 3 sound levels that I go for.
Mm-hmm.
Like hard, medium, and like barely audible.
Yeah.
And that will get you by, because they're just drums. That's what I keep trying to tell people. It's like they're just drums, and I can't really explain what I mean by that.
It's like
when I say
why
drums are dumb.
I don't understand it's like, why are you racking your brain around 150 different kick drums that aren't quite right?
Right?
just make it. It's a if you were real life, you wouldn't be able to do that.
No, it's
Wake
true.
up call.
It's true. It's true.
It's just a drum.
Sometimes like somebody asks a question. I think you might if I tune my bass drum, to a note.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found that I might do is I might, so like a bass drum, you have a decay, especially like take the TR-808 for example. It's well known for its decay. It's really nice to have that decay out so you can hear it.
Yeah.
And then get it close tuned and then knock that decay way off so you don't even hear it as a note anymore. And that'll keep it from fighting, with any frequencies. But other than that, no, not really. I'm looking
the
more
808
for
you can hear it.
Yeah. Mr. Surgeon, any thoughts on drums?
I used to have a drum set, but not anymore. I tried
What
to
brand?
pick it up. It was a Yamaha, and I had a
Nice.
Tama. It was a Tama snare, and then I kind of named it the Tamaha. So it was kind of funny. It was
The
like a
Tamaha.
mix. Yeah.
That's a cool name.
It was nice, I mean, I had fun with it, but it took up a lot of room in my house, and I was, kind of just getting into synthesis at the time as well. So I was like, let's take this to a different level and maybe get like a drum machine, and then I'll just work with all digital stuff. So yeah, I mean, it worked out. I got a sub 37 for it, so I was pretty happy with it. So
Okay.
yeah, but it was fun for the most part. Yeah.
How many cymbals roughly? Like just like a couple crashes, riding hi-hats?
Yeah, I had like let me see, 2 crash, hi-hat, and some other thing. I think they call it like an ozone or something.
It was a ride cymbal probably.
It's like a ride? Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
So
something
yeah,
like
that's a darn good trade, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I had everything. I even had like a double bass pedal for it too.
Okay.
And that thing was actually probably the most expensive piece to it.
That's great. So
I'm
you could be like
left-handed.
Tool and
Or you could just microwave popcorn
Yeah.
and get the same sound.
Yeah. It was fun, for the time being. And it was just an interesting time in my life when I had it. So I kind of took my aggressions out on it. It was kind of fun.
Oh, dude, yeah, man. Drums are great for that. You actually sweat.
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of thinking it'd be like a good way to like work out in a way. So I think.
It does. It's horrible for the midsection though.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of fat drummers out there. They got strong arms and legs, though.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, I'm sitting on a drum throne right now.
I still have my drum throne, actually, yeah. That's the one thing I did keep. I kept my sticks, and I kept my drum throne, just as a nice reminder not to go and buy an expensive drum kit again.
Those the reason why I don't have one of those like Alesis strike pads or the Roland Octa, whatever those things are, Octapads,
Yeah.
is because like they don't really come with corresponding feet units, so to speak. Like it's really hard to find a good bass drum trigger type kind of thing. Roland actually makes really good ones. I don't know that they make them anymore, but the old TD7 line was really good. But you have to have a special beater that where the shaft is angled down and it beats this way. But they're probably the best ones out there because they don't push away. That's a problem. Like when you're playing, you need something that's reliable. It stays steady. It's like solid as concrete. But otherwise, they have the new ones with the mesh and everything. But like, I would recommend people like look into getting some like one of those. I see a few jammers that have one of those, have a pair of sticks, and you can just play alongside whenever you want to with them.
Yeah, I was thinking I should probably do that. But then if I did that, it's just a huge jump from what I was thinking because it has its own onboard sounds and they're probably really good. So you just go with that.
See, that's why I started getting this conundrum where I don't want onboard sounds. I just want the controller, because now I'm like, oh, well, now I've got all these sounds that I have to think about. I don't want to add these sounds. I just want to use these sounds. Like for example, my wind controller, it comes with its own unit that has a whole 100 different sounds, and it even has an editor where you can kind of make your own. I'm like, I don't even want to waste any time thinking about any of that stuff. I just want to use this as a controller to control the sounds that I'm already familiar with.
Your redundancy can really mess with your head, I think.
I think so, but I feel that the market out there, the manufacturers, they feel that we want all-in-one boxes. Like we're not going to want to pay that money unless it has all these extra features.
We demand it all the time. Yeah. We demand that one product does another thing additionally along with it because as we're just talking about, it doesn't do this,
Yeah, people are wanting on-the-fly real-time time stretching for the S2400, the Isla Instruments S2400 sampler. They recently had a video update talking about the new firmware that came out that basically makes this a full-blown sequencer. So now it's a sampler and a sequencer.
Cool.
But what people still want was the time stretch, and what Brad and the team and what Brad and Vlad explained is that what we can do is we can give you time stretch, but it's a feature where you actually just initiate it as a process. You can't do it live, in other words. And it's like, and you're never going to be able to do it live. Sorry, it's just not going to happen, And I just don't people, unfortunately, they're not satisfied with that. You know what I mean? They don't understand, okay, well, why can't I do it here, but I can't do it here? And the answer is because the foundation never was there for it in the first place. But that's never going to be a satisfying answer for them,
Well, something
they're
based
always
on so much off a vintage instrument like that, you shouldn't be like that.
Okay, here's the thing, man. I totally agree, and I think that Brad and their team are just so nice because I would not be so nice to be like, hey, look, this is an old vintage machine. It ain't supposed to do that. If you want that, go get an Akai MPC.
But they work really hard instead to try to
buy both of them. Have two of them side by side, right? That's what I don't understand. It's not that much more money to buy two of them. You buy one, you got $2,000 into this. That's all you need right there for production. I think, doesn't the MPC have onboard effects?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Then you can take the audio in from the sampler into that, and you can do then take that back out and sample it again, and Anyways.
Yeah.
Trying to wrap this up. How do we wrap this up?
A new layer.
I think we've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna
2 hours and 10 minutes.
This is perfect. Yeah, perfect time to end
Yeah.
it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Brett Lemmings, thanks for coming. Glory to glory to glory. I didn't mention, but you've been here the whole time.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah. We'll keep. We'll keep you posted. I think we'll do some more of these. We'll get more frequent with it. Yeah, because I really enjoy talking with you guys.
Yeah, it's
thanks
fun.
for coming out of summer hibernation.
Yeah.
Totally. All righty,
All right,
everybody.
guys.
Take it easy.
Back to the hot tub.
All right. Sounds great.
See you guys
Thanks
later.
again, everybody. Bye-bye.
Nice seeing you.